Hey everyone, welcome back to the Whippy Studio. Today we are here to discuss When Calls the Heart, Season 11, Episode 8, and it is called Brother's Keeper. And of course, my mumsy is here to join me.
Hi guys.
So, what did you think of the episode? I personally enjoyed it. Definitely better than the last episode, which was probably the worst of the season. This one I thought was solid. I enjoyed a lot of parts to it, especially the Joseph and his brother thing. I thought was really well done. What did you think of the episode?
I thought it was a solid episode. Yeah, I thought Joseph getting to have some reconciliation with his brother, that was important.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved even just the choir thing. I mean,
Yeah,
there was just so many things that I did enjoy. I thought it was a solid episode.
it definitely I felt like the community aspect the most in this episode, definitely more than a lot of this season, which I feel like they've kind of been lacking the communityness of it all. And this episode reminded me of that for sure. So I did like that. But let's start off with let's actually talk about Joseph and his brother to start with because I was telling you how I felt like this was actually like the A plot of the episode. It felt like the main storyline. Um, and we basically have Jacob coming, and he's still like, Joseph, you need to apologize to me now. Not actually in that way, but that's what basically what he's saying. And Joseph's like, "What the heck? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to apologize for." And Minnie goes after Jacob and finds out that he hasn't sung and he hasn't gone to church. And basically, it's with both Minnie and Henry too that makes Joseph realize that it doesn't really matter how. Well, it does matter how he hurt Jacob, but that doesn't mean just because he doesn't know how doesn't mean he shouldn't apologize because clearly he hurt him and their family, and that's all part of God, like apologizing for forgiving. Like sometimes even if you don't know what you're doing it for, like if you see someone's hurt, like that's
Hmm.
something the right thing to do. And I kind of like how both Minnie and Henry, especially Henry, were able to guide him through that. What did you think?
I thought that was such a solid moment between Joseph and Henry that
Mm-hmm.
Henry was bestowing words of wisdom. And, Henry has a lot of experience with um, needing to be forgiven and ask for forgiveness. And he definitely, you can tell, has grown and matured and gave some really good advice.
Yeah.
It's not about, like you said, needing to know, but knowing that you hurt someone.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if you know you've hurt someone, you do need to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah. And seeing Henry be the one to give advice is crazy. Like I really like that.
It's a full circle
It's a
moment.
full circle moment, and I'm really liking how much he's grown. And this was the perfect way to like display that, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And yeah, we have the day of the festival, and pretty much the kids kind of set up for Jacob and Joseph to talk, and they do. And this is kind of where everything's laid out. We do have Joseph saying, "I'm sorry that I hurt you. It's clear that I did," and Jacob reveals that their grandfather taught them like how to sing, basically, and that the two brothers were very close and they sang together all the time. And then once their grandfather died, things kind of fell apart. And then Joseph met Minnie, and they got married and went off and had kids. And Jacob felt abandoned, and yeah, he felt like he didn't have that brother anymore to confide in or to sing with, and he just felt all alone. And at first, Jacob's still not willing to hear Joseph out, but then they have the whole thing where they sing Amazing Grace on stage, and then they kind of reconcile. So I appreciate that, but I know this was very different than your theory of that they were both going after Minnie. Um, I thought it was like a solid reason as to like why Jacob was upset. I still think he might have over exaggerated a bit for what it was. But what did you think of kind of like the reason why?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but you could see where he felt hurt because he felt abandoned. He didn't have anyone, and yeah. So I'm just so glad that they were able to reconcile, and
Yeah,
we'll see. Is Jacob going to be a part of things, or will he go back to his hat business? What will
whatever he's
happen
doing,
there? Yeah.
I'm sure he's gonna go away. I'm sure he was just in one episode. That's what they do with a lot of these things.
Hmm.
What I will say is that sometimes when they just bring someone in for one episode it feels a bit rushed, but I didn't think this was. I thought they gave it the attention it needed, and I think it was well done.
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
it had been building. I mean,
mhm.
it's like there had been
Yeah,
stuff going on
there
well
what
before
yeah, that's been
his
really this
arrival.
whole season they've been building to it. It's not like a one and done.
Hmm.
So it did help that we had pre-established that there was this issue between them, which made it like they had to spend less time on that and more time on the why behind it. And I like the ending. They all sit around the table and they have a meal together. There's a nice conclusion to that storyline.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk the investigation. So we have Clayton Pike is in town for a night, and Bill and Rosemary, they're just so persistent. They want to know, did Montague hire him? And Clayton Pike pretty much won't reveal anything. Um, and yeah, that was kind of a bummer that he can't reveal anything. I'm like, I want to know. Like, this is one thing. I'm kind of tired of this mystery at this point. Like, I just feel like there would have been more progress into it. And it's kind of a bummer that we're still kind of at square one or wherever. I don't know what you think.
Well, I mean, what we get from Clayton is he's scared. Whoever he's covering for has a lot of power and a lot of influence
Hmm.
and could do a lot of damage. You could tell he's
Yeah,
definitely scared.
I mean, which makes sense. I understand. I don't know. I want things to speed up a little bit with, and I hope, considering we have 4 episodes left, I assume we'll get an answer as to who shot Lucas. Um, but basically, what we do have is Lucas coming in to confront Pike himself, and this was actually a the scene itself was really well done, but they just cut it off, and that was a bummer. Um,
Yeah, it leaves you wondering what did he
yeah,
what did Clayton divulge to him?
I mean,
Did he tell him?
I think it's possible that he did, especially with what happens later on with Lucas and the resort bid. I'll talk about that later, but yeah, well, but basically, Rosemary and Bill find out from Clayton that the guy behind this is someone with a lot of power, someone that the Mounties can't even touch.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's interesting to me. I'm like, who could be that powerful that like the Mounties can't even? I mean,
Right.
they could, but like in his mind, like it's someone that is even above the Mounties, which is just interesting because I don't think that's Montague. It's almost like they're leading all of this to be like a misdirect, and it's not going to be Montague. That's how I feel at this point. And if it is, whatever. But I think it's going to be someone else. But yeah, I don't know, but let's kind of move over from that. It ties into Lucas, and we find out that he actually called Montague last episode to get the to ask for the bid, which was kind of disappointing. I was hoping he would not do that. And we have Henry saying like that is an awful idea,
Yeah,
Lucas.
he is ticked.
Yeah, and Edwin's like, no, it's a great idea, Lucas. And it's kind of one of those things where you have like the two people on each of your shoulders, and like you keep going back and forth.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
Hmm.
Um, and Lucas, you kind of understand where he's coming from. The resort needs to happen now. He can't walk away, especially with all these people out of jobs. Like they're going to
Hmm.
need jobs.
Yeah.
And Henry's like, well, is Jeanette really so bad that you have to resort to Montague? And Lucas is like, that doesn't matter. And I'm thinking like, I really want to know more about the Jeanette thing of it all.
Hmm.
Like, why like especially when Henry said like it seems like she's on the up and up with everything, like everything's
Right. All of her
yeah.
investors are.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it that he still can't have her as an investor? I
Yeah.
really want to know. I
Yeah.
hope they address more of their history. And and Lucas is like, that a part of me wonders maybe Pike told Lucas that it wasn't Montague, and now Lucas is like, okay, I'll work with him. That's possible. I just don't see. I just don't see why Lucas would go to Montague. It doesn't make much sense to me. What do you
Right.
think?
I agree too. So unless he's trying to somehow ensnare him, and I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, that was kind of a bummer seeing that Lucas contacted him. I'm like, no, Lucas, that is an awful idea.
Although he did say it's not a done deal yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so let's talk the choir festival. So we pretty much have right off the bat, we find out that Mr. Sweeney, that the police caught him but Tom has to pretty much make all the money because the everyone gave their money to him, so he's partly responsible for all this.
Hmm.
So he has to collect the money for Hope Valley, Benson Hills, and Jamestown.
Yeah, and while
Um,
the Hope Valley money was, they were able to
or
intercept
not
it.
Jamestown, Jameson.
Yeah,
And yeah, the Hope Valley money they got it, so they don't have to worry about that. But they have to raise money for the other two towns to make up for the funds. So they do a choir festival in Hope Valley, and we have Mayor Maisie Hickam, who is being the worst in this episode.
hmm
She's she's definitely interesting. Because she's kind of turning into just a jerk, but like very extra, like Rosemary, but in a negative way.
agreed.
Yeah, I'm I'm definitely not a fan of her. Um, and she's basically like, I want Tom arrested, and Nathan's like, no, we don't need to do that right now. Like, let's give him a chance to make up all the money. The good news is that the money is all made up by the end.
Very good news.
Lucas
Yes.
and Henry throw in the culture of fun for to like make up for the difference or whatnot, which was nice. And yeah, that all ends with a happy ending. And then we had some great choir performances with Daisy Daisy for the third time, and then Amazing Grace, which was sweet. And then Mayor Maisie Hickam was also performing on stage, which we didn't even get to see that, but I don't think we needed to see that. It definitely looked kind of weird.
Yeah, she
Whatever
was. She
she
was
was
trying to be
doing.
the star of the
Yeah,
show. I think
yeah,
that was
but she's
funny.
just not as good as Rosemary though.
Nope.
She can't pull it off. Um, but and then we have this ending with Tom saying like, after all of this has happened, I need to find a new job. Um, and we have Faith coming over asking him to dance. So that's sweet, even though I feel like that's not going to go anywhere. But there's so much potential that they would be a cute couple.
For sure. For
Um,
sure.
but let's talk now. Do you think Tom's going to stick around, or do you think he's done for this season at least?
Well, you talked about the community vibe of this episode, and I just have to say, I love when Hope Valley comes up and helps someone out,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't judge him, but sees that he has good in him, and we're willing to help him out. And then kudos to them. So, it definitely opens it up that he could stay, especially with this hint of a possibility of him and Faith having a relationship. But it's hard to say whether he will or not.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna assume no, but they could all. I don't think he'll be in the next 4 episodes, but he could come back next season. I'm not gonna rule it out. I would love to see Faith get a good love story, and I think that could be good if they're willing to keep him around. I think it would be a cool dynamic too for Elizabeth to have a family member in town.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and for little Jack to have an uncle, and
to have a dad and an uncle would be kind of cool.
yeah, and speaking of, I liked how Tom gave Nathan and Elizabeth the okay
Yeah,
in their relationship. I thought that was really cool.
not really like a blessing because they definitely don't need a blessing.
Right,
But he's like, yeah, like kind of go for it. Not in those words exactly because
right.
we know Elizabeth and Nathan are going to be slow about it all. Um, but yeah, I like, and I also liked when Nathan gave little Jack the money to go buy the candy apple or whatever, and Elizabeth was like, I don't remember saying yes, but Nathan says, but you're going to. That was sweet. And then they
Mm-hmm.
tied it back around at the end
Yes.
when she asked him to dance. He's like, I don't remember saying yes. And she's like, but you were going to.
Yeah, that was cute.
That was cute. And then they dance. And, I was like, oh, are they actually going to kiss? They don't. But I think a dance was actually a big step for them. This is their first dance that they've ever shared. So I liked it. I thought Elizabeth's outfit was very different from what we're used to seeing. And I liked that color.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, what do you think of the dance?
Yeah, you could. I mean, it was very intimate. You could tell they were gazing into each other's eyes. So yeah,
Hmm.
very sweet.
Yeah, and things ended off on a good note for both Elizabeth and Tom,
Mm-hmm.
and I like that. So they're both going to be happy. They're not going to have to worry about that. But I think that's kind of it for episode 8. But
Mm-hmm.
going into next episode, we have Montague coming to town, and I assume he's going to be finalizing the deal for the resort bid.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that the town people, specifically like Bill and Rosemary, maybe Nathan, they're going to convince him to change his mind um, about having Montague on, and I hope he
Hmm.
does. I just don't think that's a smart move at all. It shouldn't have even been something that entered his mind.
Right.
Um, and so we have that, and then we have Allie asking Nathan about her dad,
Hmm.
and that's going to be interesting to see how Nathan addresses that. Like, what is he going to tell her? That's it's going to be very complicated. It's been a while since we've heard about him, and Nathan was the one who took care of her dad, and Allie never knew about any of that. Like when we first saw
Hmm.
her dad, and now I'm gonna picture she's gonna be upset for Nathan keeping stuff from her.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's gonna be hard to see, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that all goes down and seeing Elizabeth help him out. I think that'll be good.
I think so too.
But anything else you want to say?
I think so.
It was a good episode.
Hmm.
So I think um, probably one of the better ones of the season. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did
So
too.
yeah, so we'll be back next week to talk about episode 9. Thanks everyone for listening. Comment down below your thoughts on this episode, and we'll see you next week. Bye
Bye.
everyone.